Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next session as part of the Evidence for Climate Action series. I'm Rebecca Bowstead from the UK Government Department for Energy Security and Net Zero, and today I'll be moderating our session on what works to build green. This session focuses on the UK's Market Accelerator for Green Construction programme, or MAGC. This programme is funded through official development assistance and delivered by the International Finance Corporation, IFC. It aims to tackle climate change in emerging markets by crowding in public and private finance for certified green buildings. As part of the programme's delivery, the UK Government Department has commissioned Ipsos to assess whether MAGC is having its intended benefits and maximise potential learning and transformational opportunities for future strategic direction. Our speakers today from Ipsos are Laura Hayward, Raquel de Lewis, and Elena Mastro Gregori, who will be discussing the successes and key lessons from MAGC so far. We'll have opportunity for Q&As at the end, so please do post any questions you have in the meeting chat throughout, and I'll pass over to Laura to begin the presentation. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Becky. Hello, everybody. It's great to be presenting to you today. We look forward to the discussions as well. So next slide, please. So first of all, the MAGC programme was designed to respond to a growing challenge that basically nearly 40% of global energy-related carbon emissions comes from the building sector, either in terms of the material that is being used or the production of the material that is used to build the buildings, or from the energy efficiency itself of the buildings once they're up and running. So buildings are being constructed at a higher rate in emerging economies and overall globally at a high rate. So this creates the question of how we can ensure that these buildings are done so in a green way. And to do this, we need private investment and public investment. So how do we unlock the trillions needed to green this sector in these emerging economies? Next slide, please. So the MAGC programme aims to accelerate green building construction across 24 emerging economies. As Becky's mentioned, it's delivered through a partnership between the UK government as part of its international climate finance portfolio of work alongside IFC. And this has been running from 2018, and a couple of years ago, the programme was extended and it'll now run until 2033. So the programme itself engages with a range of stakeholders. It's got a multi-component approach, which you'll be hearing about quite a bit in this presentation. So it provides both blended concessional finance, advisory support to key stakeholders, capacity building activities. It supports green building certification, and it is also carrying out research to continue generating knowledge that will identify how this sector can be made greener in the future. And the programme engages predominantly with financial institutions that can include banks, and also with stakeholders from the construction industry across a range of groups, so from sort of architects, builders, developers, through to those who are actually certifying the green buildings, so the sort of engineers and experts. Next slide, please. So Ipsos is very proud to be evaluating this very, very interesting programme. It's one of a number of evaluations that we have ran for DESNZ in the UK regarding its international climate finance portfolio. And this independent evaluation runs alongside the programme itself. So we have been delivering this since 2023, and we will produce a final report for this evaluation in 2027. So we've been using a mixture of methods to conduct this evaluation. And really what our evaluation is trying to do is to understand what is working well within the programme, what is working less well and why, really to generate learning for both IFC and the UK government to support this programme as it continues to be run, but also to feed into other related programmes and aid that is ongoing. So for those of you who might have some understanding of research and evaluation, we are taking a theory-based approach. So we're really looking at how MAGC is trying to create this change, sort of the design hypotheses on which it is built, and we're testing those. And we are in particular conducting in-depth research in Kenya, India, Vietnam, Colombia, and in South Africa, although we are looking across all 24 countries and sort of collecting comparative data across those. And we're currently at the end of what we've called the early outcome evaluation. So we've started to sort of look at initial results. We've also conducted a process evaluation, which looked at how the programme was delivered. And next we'll move into the impact evaluation. I'll now pass over to my colleague, Eleanor.
Thank you very much, Laura, and hello, everyone. Great to have the opportunity to be here and present the results of our evaluation. So I'm now going to go through 3 key lessons from our early outcome evaluation of MAGC. So first of all, we found that MAGC is successfully accelerating this nascent sector of green buildings by tackling both supply and demand. Our evidence also shows that the combination of advisory services and concessional finance is a critical factor for mobilizing investment. And third, that the program is demonstrating both the potential and also the challenges of balancing climate mitigation with social co-benefits. So we'll now take you through these lessons a bit more in detail. So our first key lesson addresses the how of market acceleration. So a key outcome that we observed is that MAGC is successfully increasing capacity across the sector and accelerating investment. But looking at how it's achieving this, our evaluation found that its success lies in its holistic whole market approach. So the financial support, which is the largest part of the program investment, is structured to ultimately benefit both sides of the market. So on the supply side, they create incentives for developers to build green. And on the demand side, they enable banks to offer green finance products like green mortgages for buyers. But MAGC goes also beyond individual deals and also works to improve the enabling environment. So through its other components, the program builds capacity in the private and public sector, supports green building certification, and is helping to develop a pool of skilled professionals and contributing to a more favorable regulatory landscape as well. So essentially, it's making it easier for developers to enter the green building market in terms of awareness, capacity, and building the skills they need. However, our fieldwork has also confirmed that key market barriers still remain. So the high upfront costs of green materials, limited awareness of green buildings amongst residential buyers were consistently highlighted across our interview program and case studies country deep dives as persistent challenges. So the key learning from this is that to accelerate a market, a holistic approach is working well, where projects are financed, but simultaneously it's building the ecosystem around it, addressing supply, demand, and the enabling environment at the same time. Our second lesson is about the mechanisms and success factors of mobilization. So a key outcome here is that MAGC is showing a high leverage. With 56 million of UK public funding, the programme has supported unlocking 1.8 billion in finance for green construction. This finance includes IFC own account finance alongside other private capital. And it's important to note that this is an interim result of an ongoing program. So this figure represents progress to date. So when looking as part of our evaluation at success factors that facilitated this leverage, a key finding was that the importance of the combination of advisory and financial support is really key. providing financial intermediaries with the foundational tools to build their knowledge and also the confidence to enter this market. But also its sequencing was quite important, as our evidence showed that what worked best was when advisory comes first at early stage to tackle the awareness, the knowledge barriers within banks, followed by the blended finance using concessional funds to cover the green premium. Also, this has been facilitated by IFC's strong reputation, connections, prior experience in these markets to close deals efficiently, and the number of deals at this stage exceeds initial targets. The challenge, however, is that market transformation is not yet complete. So our evaluation shows that there are still knowledge, institutional capacity gaps in the wider market, and institutions are still perceiving risks as too high or lack the internal capacity. But we are seeing early encouraging signs of transformation. For example, banks starting to proactively reach out to IFC for support. So the key lesson here for the climate finance community is that programs with the objective of finance mobilization should consider advisory as a combined and foundational activity that can really help unlock investment and confidence of local partners. And this leads us to our third and final lesson, for which I'll hand over to my colleague Raquel.
Thank you very much, Elena. So green buildings are traditionally built for high-income households, meaning that they would be part of the recipients of MAGC's concessional finance. Conscious of this and willing to contribute to social outcomes, in addition to climate change mitigation, MAGC set objectives on the minimum volume of finance to be targeted to affordable housing. And as a result, several deals closed with financing institutions are structured to make green housing affordable. So for instance, one investment in India targets specifically lower income groups. So the evaluation shows that achieving this balance between climate and social outcomes requires intentional design and mainstreaming social outcomes from the outset. One challenge that we have observed in this evaluation is that end users, and this pertains both to high income as well as low income beneficiaries, are often unaware of green buildings altogether and of their benefits, and especially how they can help reduce utility bills, which is important to make housing more affordable. So one of our recommendations for the program revolves around training sales teams on green buildings so that they can in turn communicate the benefits as well to end users. And MAGC is also conducting research to demonstrate the benefits of green buildings in reducing energy and water consumption. And this will also provide evidence that can then be used to further promote green buildings. So really the lesson here is the importance of embedding social outcomes within the program design in order to be able to achieve them. Next slide, please. So really, MAGC as a program has been a very successful program. It has managed to really help a nascent sector to take off in these emerging markets, and it's done so by providing this holistic package of support that tackles the supply and the demand of green buildings, but also the whole ecosystem. It's also showing that a financial intervention is more impactful when it is integrated with advisory services. So we think that it's unlikely that MAGC would have leveraged the amount of finance that it has and that it would have closed as many deals as it has with financial intermediaries if it hadn't provided as well this advisory support that came before the financial support. And finally, what I was mentioning about social co-benefits, that it's important for programs to, or that it is possible for programs to pursue both climate mitigation as well as social outcomes. And there doesn't need to be a trade-off between those objectives. So as the international community tries to close the climate finance gap, MAGC offers a success story from the built environment, and this can bring more learning as well to other sectors and not just the built environment. Next slide. So thank you so much for listening to our presentation. We will take questions now, but we also remain at your disposal if you have any follow-up questions after this session. So you can contact either the DESNZ team or the Ipsos team, who are the evaluation team. And yeah, thank you so much for listening to us, and we look forward to your questions.
Thanks, Raquel, and thanks, Laura and Elena, for a very interesting and insightful session. It's great to hear about the successes of MAGC, but also, what we can improve on and where we can go from there. We'll now move to the Q&A. If you do have any questions, like I said earlier, please do pop them in the chat. While we wait to see if any further questions come through, I'll actually start with a question that I had. Your team mentioned a few times around the kind of benefits that are seen when you combine the advisory services and the finance, the financial finance and the investments that are put into the projects. Could you give us a concrete example of what advisory support actually looks like for a financial institution? And maybe I think I'll pass to Elena for that. Thanks.
Thank you, Becky. Yeah, of course. So yeah, we've talked about the power of this combination of financial investment and advisory. In terms of advisory support specifically, this mainly involves training for bank staff, but also it helps them identifying and engaging with their clients. So, for example, it involves training staff to understand the technical aspects of green buildings. So what a green building certification means, how to assess a project's resource efficiency, how to talk to developers about it, how to do the reporting. That's a very key aspect of those sessions as well. How to assess the risk of green projects, which is one of the main barriers for banks. Or it's been also about co-designing new finance products like the green mortgages that we mentioned earlier. And it has also involved marketing of these products. So the support has taken various formats, including workshop and capacity building sessions for whole teams all at once, or sessions where clients were also involved. For example, meetings to learn from the client itself about barriers, opportunities in the sector, and how IFC can support increasing construction levels in the country. So a variety of different formats as well. But yeah, these are just a few examples.
No, thanks. That's really useful. It paints a picture of what the MAGC delivery actually looks like. We've had a question in the chat. It's around the social co-benefits, particularly with green buildings only remaining around high-income groups. Can you please talk a bit more about what the evaluation found regarding how social co-benefits were mainstreamed into the programme and how they were received in countries like India, for example?
Thank you, Becky.
Would I pass that to Raquel? Thanks.
Yeah. I can take that question, and then please, Elena and Laura, feel free to chip in. So essentially, MAGC has an objective of mobilizing a minimum volume of finance with affordable housing. So this has materialized. There are two. So out of the 19 deals that IFC and MAGC have signed with financial institutions, there are two, one in India, one in Peru, that particularly target affordable housing. So actually, most of the majority of the deals still do not target this market, but we are seeing examples of where this is happening, and it's thanks to embedding this objective in the design of MAGC. How this is being taken up by these countries is something yet to be seen, as these deals have been closed relatively recently. So we are yet to see the uptake of these financial products. And this is something that we will assess in the final evaluation, and it's something that we are looking at closely. Thank you very much for this question, because it's a very interesting one. I don't know if Elena or Laura want to add anything on that.
Thanks, Raquel. No, I think you covered it all. Just to add that, of course, as part of this kind of long-term evaluation, this is something that we'll look at also in the next phase in our impact evaluation as part of learning for the program. So that's something that it's quite key to learn from a delivery perspective. So that will be also looked at in the next phase.
Thanks. We've actually had a couple more questions in the chat. One being, what is the benefits for prospective homeowners and developers in South Africa? And I might also kind of add on to that a question around the evaluation having covered such a diverse set of countries. Is there kind of significant variations based on local context? And so kind of looking at South Africa and India as the last example mentioned. I'll pass back to you, and then I'll take the next few questions as a group. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Becky. So from the top of my head, I cannot remember exactly what are the deals in South Africa, but more broadly, across the MAGC portfolio, the deals target both developers and homeowners or future homeowners. So essentially, benefits that they could expect. So from MAGC, it could be like a reduced mortgage or a mortgage with a concessional interest rate to cover the green premium of the building. And then once they live in the building, they could see, in principle, lower energy and water bills because green buildings reduce both energy and water consumption. I think Becky also added kind of a follow-up question to this in relation to differences that we have observed in the evaluation across countries. Was that the added question? So overall, I think some of the findings are very general to all countries. So we've seen roughly that the key market barriers are the same across all countries. So the cost of the materials to build green buildings and the availability of those materials are key barriers across all the economies that we have investigated. Where differences, sorry, my light went off, but where differences exist, it's on the maturity of the market. So for instance, some markets like Colombia really have very well structured already and a very good enabling environment, and the market has really grown very fast. In other markets where this isn't the case, the uptake of green buildings and of green products for building green and buying green buildings is a bit slower.
Thank you, Raquel. That's really, really interesting. I'll maybe give these next few questions as a group and let you guys work through them. So, is there an argument that targeting high-end housing would achieve higher emission savings? And how can programs such as MAGC strike a good balance between social versus environmental outcomes, if at all? And then we also have a question on whether advisory services are being provided to developers within the context of the program, which could be considered a major area of blockage. Thanks.
Shall I come in first? There was also a third question that just popped up as you were speaking, Becky, which I think links to Martha's question as well. I think the question that Martha raises is really a very pertinent one, and I think it's really important, and we will certainly be considering sort of this in the evaluation. We've certainly been looking at the different types of buildings that are potentially going to be supported through the programme, and also we will also be, another key thing to mention in this is that this is an evaluation that's been commissioned by the UK government, and so we will also be considering kind of UK policy priorities and interests as well. So just on the question about whether there are generalizable lessons, absolutely. And I think that's something that's very exciting about the work that we're doing to look at the sort of core benefits as well, because there we are trying to generate lessons that can be applied to other climate financing programs, both those funded by the UK and elsewhere. I'll let my other colleagues come in case they want to add something there, and perhaps Eleanor can answer the question about support for developers' capacity.
Thank you, Laura. Yes, absolutely. So as part of our presentations, we have explained, quite briefly kind of how the program works, but as it's a multi-component program, absolutely it does have support for developers. And this is mainly as part of component 2, as part of the country level capacity building. So a lot of the activities that IFC has been doing in country have been targeted to developers. And examples of these have been to introduce them to the EDGE certification, more kind of on technical skills. There's been also something that came out quite interestingly from the evaluation that was not really originally expected, was how much this helps also networks and connections with other companies. So there's been a lot of activities directly targeted to developers themselves. And as I mentioned, as part of the work with financial institutions, there has been also involvement and engagement with clients. So yeah, absolutely part of the holistic approach that we were talking about.
Thanks both. Yeah, I think you've captured that really well, Elena, around the kind of multi-component aspects of the program and how we've only touched on a very small part of it today, but there are lots of different areas that MAGC delivers and lots of things to take away from it. We have another question in the chat regarding kind of an option to represent the world and introduce the benefits of the banyan tree to save our environment. And so I guess that would be in respect to banyan tree being used as a form of a construction product, but do specify in the chat if I'm wrong there. It might be a little bit kind of detailed in terms of more around the EDGE certification methodology, but I'll let Ipsos colleagues answer if they do have a view.
Yeah, I think if this refers to banyan tree as a construction material, I think that's a bit of a too technical question for us as evaluators.
But I think it would be maybe quite interesting to hear, just to mention sort of the certification component as well, and how as part of our evaluation we've been really looking at sort of how MAGC is working in the different countries where it's supporting, and sometimes that does kind of take a sort of slightly different form in different countries, both in terms of how it interacts with that national market, that local market. Also sometimes the certification schemes that it is aligned in that country. So I think what's very, very interesting about our evaluation so far is that very sort of comparative look at how MAGC's been delivered. And in this final stage, we will be looking to sort of understand whether that has had any effect on sort of the different impacts globally. Thanks, Monica.
I looking at the time, think we have opportunity for one more question. I've seen something that's just come through in the chat. And I will take moderator's privilege to ask a final question around whether there has so far been any surprising or unexpected findings from the interim evaluation of MAGC. Thanks.
Yeah, should I take that one? Thank you very much. So, yeah, I mean, we've kind of touched upon them quite a bit already in the presentation. So we've really gone into depth, particularly in this last report that we've developed. And I think that some of the kind of interesting findings that we found was really about this kind of sequencing of the support as a formula for success. So the advisory support coming first, and then the financial support. And we've also sort of identified a positive unintended outcome, which is through the sort of MAGC activities, particularly where they've convened different stakeholders, that has supported the creation of sort of sustained connections and networks. And this is something similar that we found also in other international climate finance programs that we have evaluated in the UK as well. Did Raquel or Eleanor want to add anything to that?
No, thank you so much, Laura.
Realize we are
Okay,
also out of
great.
time.
Thank you, everyone. We're at the end of the session. As mentioned, we'll share kind of emails address and contact details, and we've linked to a number of kind of useful resources to learn more about MAGC, the evaluation, and Ipsos as an organisation. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have, and thank you again to the presenters and EC4A for allowing us this chance to speak through. Thank you, everyone.
Definitely. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.